Harry Chapin was an American singer-songwriter from New York, tragically killed in a traffic collision in 1981 at age 38. His most famous hit songs are Taxi and Cats in the Cradle, both of which I have a problem with. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. On each episode of my weekly podcast, a different topic, discussion, commentary, or story from our lives.
Season 19, Chapter 2.
Harry Chapin got it wrong. Before I get into this and make my case, I know that only a few weeks ago I did a piece on a horrible 1970s made-for-TV movie called The Feminist and the Fuzz. And then last week my podcast was about a classic 70s action-adventure TV series, The $6 Million Man. For clarity's sake, I'm not stuck in the 70s. It's a coincidence that Harry Chapin came up recently, and me not being able to stay out of a conversation, and I proffered my theory on the lack of continuity within Harry Chapin's biggest hit songs, his legacy songs. He either A, didn't fully think through his lyrics, or B, no one told him about the huge mistakes within his songs. Or maybe they didn't notice either. No one noticed for over 50 years. Chapin has gotten away with it. I caught it a couple of years ago, actually. And when Harry Chapin came up again recently, I thought, I've never done a podcast about this. I may have mentioned it once, but that was a long time ago in a non sequitur episode. This will be the full story. Maybe it's time to expose these fraudulent accounts that he set to music. Let's start with Taxi, the song that introduced Chapin to the public. It peaked at number 24 on the Billboard Hot 100 Singles chart in June of 1972. In the day, artists achieved hit song status by getting airplay on AM radio. Taxi did that, but it was unusual because of the song's length. Top 40 radio stations preferred brevity. Most hit songs were under 3 minutes, specifically produced to be so. Not Taxi. Taxi was 6 minutes and 44 seconds of music and lyrics. And lyrics, 15 verses, including a haunting bridge sung in ethereal falsetto. It was great. And don't get me wrong, I loved the song. Well, I did for years until I noticed the glaring story error. Frankly, that ruined it for me. At 6 minutes and 44 seconds, a lot of disc jockeys used Taxi to be able to take a leisurely bathroom break. And I can't play any of Taxi or Cats in the Cradle here, because then likely the podcast would be blocked on many sites. So we'll have to rely on our memory. And we all know the song and the story of Taxi. Our hero, Harry, is a cab driver in San Francisco. Late one rainy night, he picks up a well-dressed woman who lives at a ritzy address. They recognize each other as old friends, former sweethearts, in fact. They learned about love in the back of a Dodge. The lesson hadn't gone that far. So likely they didn't have sex. They just made out like the horny, sweaty, awkward teenagers they were. Horny, sweaty, awkward teenagers is not in the lyrics. I just sort of added that. They both had small-town but big-time dreams. You see, she was going to be an actress, and Harry was going to learn to fly. Harry and Sue. They went their separate ways all those years ago. And now this chance meeting in a taxi. So now he's driving cab, and apparently she gave up all hope of being an actress and married for money. She's living luxuriously, but in a loveless marriage. It's a great story, really. It's got everything. Compelling characters, conflict, meaningful transformation. I'm surprised that no one ever tried to base a made-for-TV movie on the song. No one ever did. So he pulls up to the house. Anyone? 16 Parkside Lane. And by the way, Parkside is a very nice neighborhood in San Francisco. But there is no Parkside Lane. That's made up. Also, that's not the problem I have with the song. It's just a bit of trivia. But here's what the problem is. Remember the lyrics? There was not much more for us to talk about. Whatever we had once was gone. So I turned my cab into the driveway past the gates and the vine-trimmed lawn. and she said we must get together, but I knew it'd never be arranged. And she handed me $20 for a $2.50 fare. She said, Harry, keep the change. Well, another man might have been angry, and another man might have been hurt, but another man never would have let her go. I stashed the bill in my shirt. There it is. Do you see it? Do you see the problem? Another man wouldn't have let her go? But you just said whatever we had once was gone. Remember, it was just a short cab ride, and you already ran out of things to talk about? Why do you think it was a mistake to let her go? Whatever you had once was gone. Even you realize that. That's my problem. It's a continuity error. The story made sense up till then. Suddenly, Another literary term for this is narrative fallacy. Like I said, musically it's a great tune. Hey, the words rhyme where they should. But that gaping hole, some people can forgive it. I cannot.
All my songs are emotionally true, if not literally true. I believe that what I owe to my songs is that I understand the subject I'm talking about, but not that it literally happened to me. Now, Taxi's about 60% true.
Obviously, he didn't think it through. Hey, we no longer have anything in common. You want to go out sometime? Mind you, Chapin already ruined the legacy of the 1972 hit when in 1980 he came out with a song called Sequel, where he revisits the characters of Harry and Sue. And just like a sequel to many movies, it really didn't need to be made. We were fine with the way the story ended last time. We don't need to hear about the weekly adventures of Harry and Sue. But Sequel by Harry Chapin, another 6.5-minute musical epic.
And he's going to do Sequel for you right now. As you said, where Taxi left off. Here is Harry Chapin.
In this story, our friend Harry is now a touring pop star. Interesting because at the end of the previous story, Harry says, me, I'm flying in my taxi, taking tips and getting stoned. A full life, no doubt, but somehow he turned it around and now he's a big pop star. He gets in early for his gig in San Francisco, so of course he decides to look up Sue. Takes a cab up to 16 Parkside Lane. Ding dong. I'm sorry, Sue doesn't live here anymore. But the butler hands out the new address to some perfect stranger who just showed up at the door. So Harry goes to her shitty apartment, and they talk all afternoon. She tells Harry that she decided to give up her phony, luxurious life, but now for the first time in a long time she really likes herself. He offers her tickets to his concert that night, but she can't go. She's working her shitty job. They have sex. Thanks for telling us. He offers her money and can't understand why she won't take it. I guess because he's remembering how when she gave him $20 for a $2.50 fare and said, Harry, keep the change, he took it. Anyway, then the song trails off into some incoherent mumbling about the circle of life. It's really pretty pathetic.
Wow. Another powerful one.
It actually ended up hitting number 23 on the Billboard charts, one better than the original Taxi. It's funny because today you will find more people that remember the song Taxi than who know there was a sequel. So, a ridiculous storyline at the end of Taxi. Even though Harry clearly gets that there's no longer anything between them, he feels he should not have let her go. That's a mistake. And maybe that's it. Maybe Harry just made a mistake. So what? Well, let's get to Cats in the Cradle. 2 years after Taxi, Cats in the Cradle was a huge #1 for Chapin, topping the charts by the end of 1974. And it was introduced to a whole new generation when California band Ugly Kid Joe covered it and had a hit song with it in 1992. For this song, we can blame both Harry Chapin and his wife, Sandra. Sandra Chapin wrote poetry, and often Harry would convert some of those poems into songs. That's what he did with Cats in the Cradle. And it's unclear whether Harry altered or changed any of the sentiment of the original poem, but let's get into this second glaring error. So what's Cats in the Cradle about? A neglectful father never seems to have enough time for his son, But yet the poor kid keeps trying and says, I'm going to grow up to be just like Dad. Then later in life, the kid moves away and has a family of his own. Dad is feeling regretful about not spending enough time with his kids. So he calls his son and says, hey, how about getting together? And the kid says, hey, Dad, sorry, no time for you. And the dad realizes, my boy was just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon and little boy blue and the man in the moon. So what's the problem, Larry? What little thing are you picking on now? Well, to me, it's not a little thing. The lyric in question. I've long since retired and my son moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle, and the kid's got the flu. But it was sure nice talking to you, Dad. It was sure nice talking to you. Click. My boy was just like me. No, he wasn't. He actually grew up to be the opposite of you, Pops. You just told me so. You, Pops, never had time for your kid. But he just said he can't talk because his kids have the flu. You see, he's concerned about his kids. He's making time for his kids, which you didn't. That's not being just like you. To be just like you, he would have had to ignore the kids. He's not, though, is he? He's ignoring you. So what you're actually getting is payback. That's an entirely different thing. Again, I guess Harry Chapin didn't think it through. Another man wouldn't have let her go. My boy was just like me. Story errors. Not to mention in that song, Chapin really paints the old man in a bad light. Hey, he was just a hard-working dad, trying to be responsible for his family, planes to catch, bills to pay. Hey, he bought the kid a ball and a glove. So what if he didn't have time to play with them? You know, kid, you wouldn't have had a ball and a glove if your dad didn't work so hard all the time. Why don't you write a little gratitude into the song? Hey, Pop, I know you didn't spend a lot of time with us because you were working so hard so we'd have a house and food on the table. Except no, the song is saying, hey, you were a shitty father, and now your boy's just like you. Which he is not. People don't listen to the songs the way I do. But I do. You know, there are lots of songs out there that don't make sense. Lennon wrote I'm the Walrus, deliberately full of nonsensical lyrics. And, you know, what the hell does mbop even mean, Hanson? Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles? Meaningless. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening. Me, Galileo Figaro, Magnifico. What the hell are you blathering on about? I don't know, and I don't care. You know, I grew up with all that kind of stuff. Larry, you know there's no such thing as a surrealistic pillow or a strawberry alarm clock. Yeah, I know that. I actually enjoy random words just thrown together. It creates imagery. The pump don't work because the vandals took the handles. It's like an abstract painting. We get to find our own meaning in it. It's great. I'm saying I can enjoy songs that don't make sense, but if you're going to tell a story in a song, a story with a beginning and a middle and an end, it should make sense. Not like Taxi or Cats in the Cradle. And then once you realize that they don't, we should be calling them out on it. You don't just accept false narratives, try and learn a lesson from something that's illogical, and do it just because everyone else does, or maybe because, hey, you like the guy who's pitched them. I like Harry Chapin. I'm sorry that his life ended horribly at such an early age, but he made these huge mistakes. That's a big problem still in society today, especially today. We buy into stories that don't make real sense. Let's bomb those Venezuelan drug boats out of the water because millions of American kids are dying from fentanyl. Yeah, but fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela in any great amount. It comes from China. Why don't you bomb China? Well, because you can't start a war with China. But you can with a little country like Venezuela, who, by the way, has the largest oil reserves in the world, more than the Saudis. Venezuela should be this country of gold-plated palaces and towering glass skyscrapers full of money and Rolls Royces. It's not. It's a country of economic mismanagement, political instability, and massive corruption. You can take over a country like that and all their oil on the premise that you are bombing their cocaine boats. But who's buying into that premise as I just outlined it? Not many people are pitching that. No, what they're saying is, first we're going to change it from the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and then we're going to use our own military to bomb those cocaine smugglers right into Davy Jones' locker. Because fentanyl is killing our children. That's really what's being pitched. Man, talk about a narrative fallacy. Other men would have let that go, but not this one. Just a minute, I thought we were talking about Harry Chapin. Are you saying Harry Chapin is responsible for bombing the drug boats? No, I'm just saying that once you accept all these seemingly insignificant little inconsistencies, the little ones, the little lies, you throw logic out the window, and then that becomes your way of life. And that makes the big lies easier to accept. I'm just using Harry Chapin as an example of how easily we're fooled sometimes. Myths by which we live our lives. I'm probably living 2 or 3 myself right now. But I'm trying to get better, and I'm not living this one, not the Harry Chapin one. And as a footnote, in my mind, I often interchange Harry Chapin with Jim Croce. I don't confuse the two. I'm not an idiot. I've never filled out an ID 10T form. I just find them somewhat interchangeable. I think because they were both just guys with guitars, acoustics, solo acts, who wrote and told stories in song. They had the roots in folk music. And of course, both lives ended way too soon. Chapin in that freeway mishap in 1981 at age 38. Actually, next December will mark 45 years since. And Jim Croce at age 30 in that 1973 plane crash. In many ways, Chapin kind of filled the void after we lost Croce. Croce at least never got into these convoluted, complicated stories with narrative fallacies. Leroy Brown was bad. How bad was he? Well, he had a gun in his pocket just for fun, a razor in his shoe, and he was meaner than a junkyard dog. Got it. Croce, if I could save time in a bottle, I'd save all I could to spend it with you. Got it. Every time I tried to tell you, the words just came out wrong, so I'll have to say I love you in a song. Got it. Another man would have never let her go. My boy was just like me. Don't got it. Harry Chapin had 2 brothers, Tom and Steve. Both became musicians, both still with us. Harry's widow Sandra, who wrote the Cats in the Cradle poem, is about 91 now, still with us, still writing. She wrote that poem after the birth of their son Joshua, who along with his older sister Jen would be in their 50s. The entire family is involved still in the Harry Chapin Foundation. Harry was a huge activist trying to end world hunger, and his foundation still deals with issues around food insecurity. Amazing guy, no doubt. I'm not trying to undercut any of that. It's just that his 2 biggest hit songs don't really make sense. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's the first time they've ever been on television. They are so new they haven't got a recording contract. But I think after this appearance, they will. Now, it's unusual when you find brothers and sisters, real brother and sister groups nowadays. You can go back to the McGuire sisters, and before that, the Andrews sisters, and some brother teams. But these are 3 honest-to-goodness brothers, and they are marvelous. They came in a week ago and auditioned for us. They're all out of Cornell University. The man you see on the drums is their father. So it's really a whole family act here. And their father is considered one of the great drummers in America. And we're proud to produce the whole family. So here are the Chapins, boys.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.